Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Pinball Arcade. So, last time we played Phantom of the Opera, which was seemingly a license of the 1911 book, which, how that would have even been copyrighted in 1990 is pathetic on a different end of just how long copyright has been extended to a ridiculous level. But we won't get into that rant today. Let's play a Whirlwind and hopefully run into a better table. Now, this was a table I played a couple of times in the real world, and it's very interesting in the thought that it has a fan on the top of the backboard that would blow on you, which could definitely throw off your game, and I think was probably a little bit problematic because of that. Of course, there'd be no real way to simulate this unless you were to build a USB controlled fan for your computer. And even if you were going to build a virtual pinball table, it'd be very silly to have a fan on top of your backboard in a virtual pinball table for exactly one game. I'm fairly certain no other table ever did this. Um, it could be a case where you could spin up the fans inside a computer, but that would just be noisy and dangerous to do to simulate a fan. This is a table that clearly was inspired by a couple of movies like Twister that came out about the same time. But once again, not really a table that licensed anything from those movies. So I guess maybe they saved themselves a lot of money by not licensing things and just taking a generic concept of storm chasing and just making a pinball table after it. It's a good concept for pinball in general, more so than probably even a movie. Storm chasing became fairly busy, very popular after movies like Twister came out for quite a while and then eventually died down as I think it was not particularly as fun as it seemed nor encouraged as much amongst an average person to do for the danger of it. I know that it was in years prior, some big following of storm chasers on YouTube, but it seems like the promotion of dangerous activities became was one of the things that was not allowed on YouTube at a certain point, and I imagine all the storm chasing YouTube channels died out after that. 1990, this Williams machine, a Pat Lawlor Tabor, the designer of such classics as The Addams Family and Twilight Zone, two tables we have not seen yet, so this is the second time we've seen a table description that is chronologically mentioning other tables that came up after this point. Delivered yet another great pinball table, which inherently, this sentence is just inaccurate because, as far as we know, this very well was the first pinball table he made, and then he made Addams Family and Twilight Zone. You're engulfed in a storm chaser's fantasy. Feel the power of the wind. Whirlwind blows wind in your face with a special fan once the storm begins. Spinning discs, cellar holes, drop targets add additional features. To challenge you, approximately 7,300 units of this table were produced. That is quite a lot of units for sure, so the gimmick factor of the fan seemed to help, and I imagine the movie Twister and the fandom around that probably helped too. Here we can see the William, typically weak yellow flippers. Seems like there's two 6 times multipliers. Here you have, instead of one big sand wheel, which we saw on one of the very early 1970s tables, you instead have 3 different tables, which that makes the ball go around in a lot of different ways. And these are basically just sandpaper on them for friction. And I imagine it would be very difficult to change the directions these would fling the ball or the amount of force they would fling the ball with. You can see that there's a ramp here that drops onto. Wow, we are rather zoomed in. There's a ramp here that drops onto the rightmost spinning things. There's a sinkhole here. You go into a almost perfect triangle of pop-up bumpers, which these are probably a little oversized. We've seen several instances before where there was other smaller pop-up bumpers. There's oddly a bumper up at the top there, probably just to make sure the ball doesn't get stuck in a specific place. I could see it getting popped up that area, but the shot here is to go through here, miss the bumpers, go all the way up, all the way around, and come back to this area. Or hit this sink target. There's 2 sink targets, 2 cellars, or hit these drop down targets with a slingshot, it looks like, behind them, or get the ball to come out this ramp or get to this flipper some other way, so you can hit it on this ramp, which seems to shoot it up and all the way around again. There's actually very flat ramps here around the back that they wanted to make this table longer, I can tell, and they've even kind of hidden some elements with this lightning on the background, which I don't feel like the lightning on the background really needed to exist. Seems to be kind of pointless. Then you have a whole nother set of what I would say probably perfectly triangular pop-up bumpers here. So you've got 6 bumpers on this table. That's the most we've seen, I think, for any table. This is one of those tables, instead of just having bounce backs on the edges of ramps, you do have some targets that you may need to get good at hitting, or they may just give you some generic extra score. There's a drop down target here with possibly a sink down hole behind it, possibly not. There's no top lane lineups. If you miss the shot here for this green, it'll loop around and potentially go in a circle. And this is one of those tables that's potentially designed fairly nicely, where hitting all of the greens might be indicating that that will do one task and one task only. And I imagine you are trying to light up each point of this 8-pointed compass, so all the green lights would light up southwest potentially, or hitting at least one of them would light up southwest. See, that says southwest and that says southwest, but this green lock doesn't say that. There's a standing target there. These out lanes probably aren't too terrible, but with the spinning centers, that could be a problem. There is a way to launch a ball over here, but I don't particularly see how you get the ball there. I guess you switch this gate, get it down here, and then maybe it kicks back, or maybe it doesn't. And then there's a subway toll box here that I don't know what that really means. Those are, I bet that is just pure decoration and doesn't do anything, because I don't know how you would wire anything for it to say trap a ball. It would be cool if it magnetically lifted the balls higher and trapped a ball, but that would probably never happen. This is another one of these tables where there's so much going on that they just needed to start overlapping things. So there's a ramp here, and under the ramp is another sinkhole target. Lots of flashing lights. Yeah, I don't see a plunger on the left side. And the artwork is showing the beginnings of a tornado being depicted as a face blowing, which is pretty old-fashioned. A concept, but not a terrible fashion. Not a terrible idea. Let's look at the flyer. What is with this angle? Just talk about a crazy, crazy angle. You should just pull a photo like this up in Photoshop and stretch it out so it's at the right angle. So the front of the flyer, not really like showing much of anything. And then the back of it is yet another crazy angle. I would say the gimmick is not my favorite one. We'll see as we play that the spinning sandpaper in the middle doesn't, I think, spin as often as you would think it does, which is a great feature because if it was kind of always spinning, it would really suck. So we're going to go for a super skill shot, which this may be the second table, maybe the first table we've had a super skill shot as an option. Earn an extra ball, activate Feel the Power Multiball. That's probably when the fan would start blowing on you. Score a drop reward, score quick multiball million. Alright. Let's start playing. Oh, there is a start button on the left, so that may be the launcher that they use if you get to the left lane. Immediate drain out. Still with Pinball Arcade, there's some weirdness, I would say, around the angles. You're pretty much never going to be able, from the lower flippers, you're pretty much never going to be able to hit up the main ramp you want to hit. So you can get a super skill shot with that. Actually, a super skill shot, I think, if I'm recalling correctly, is to go a little weaker, yeah, and hit the targets. The thing the spinners do more than anything is require you to hit with consistent, strong shots. That was a terrible game. That's the super skill shot. But generally, as you become a better pinball player, you're always trying to get a super skill shot. You're always trying to hit strong, accurate shots anyways. And anytime I have to flip both flippers and potentially save the ball from draining out, that is because the ball either bounced somewhere I had not intended it to bounce, or I had missed a shot previously. Theoretically, if every shot you take is perfect, you know where the ball will land and it will never be in danger. Oddly, this feels like it's a little quiet on the music aspect. Feels like they maybe just turned everything down. So the first time it tells you that storm is coming, and then it says the storm is clear. The second time it says the storm is coming and stays like that, and now they're waiting for me to hit the target, hit the ramp to unlock the multiball, which is not a full power shot, but it's not a super weak shot either. That, I believe, starts the multiball. And so I hit the cellar, and then that's a 2-ball multiball. It's kind of nice that the table plays a sound effect And that's actually a very familiar sound effect to me. I remember hearing it quite a lot. But flashing the cellar light and playing a sound effect to tell you that the ball is about to launch, and then actually not even launching the ball that hard, is just really generous. Of course, you run into a problem with a table like this is in the fact that at the same time you would probably be playing something like Funhouse, and so it would be fairly easy to compare and realize, oh well, Funhouse is still better than this by a few steps. And if anything, I think it might be an interesting perspective to say, no, 1990 is just the golden era of modern, the beginning of a golden era of modern pinball, and they're making up for a lot of lost time. And certainly in the retrospect, there's no reason why you couldn't have almost all the time in the world to play Funhouse and Whirlwind. Of course, in the original instances, you would be at an arcade, and even if you were managing to spend like an entire spring break or skipping school every single day and then spending 12 hours at the arcade, your time would still be fairly limited. And that is one of the beautiful things about owning these tables in virtual, is that if you never actually bother to play them, doesn't matter, you still have that opportunity. And as you get older, having the opportunity to play a game is almost as good, if not sometimes better, than playing. See, and you would think that that shot in particular would be a skill shot, but it isn't. There's another delayed bump. I'm up to 9 million. I feel like that's a very reasonable score. For as well as I've played. But I don't think I've gotten all of the standard goals, which is fine. We'll start a new game and we'll double check what I haven't missed, assuming the game does not decide to lock up a whole bunch. I'll take it really slow when putting in the initials. So the drop award, once the ball is in play, hitting the drop target scores 10,000. Complete all 3 drop targets to score drop award. Drop value increases by 10,000 each time it's scored. Value resets when the ball drains. Quick multi-ball million. Hitting the tornado drop target when quick multi-ball is lit, or earning light quick multi-ball through sell dollars, raises the skyway ramp and lights the lock. Refer to the tornado drop targets in Cell and Supercellar chapters for more details. Once the lock is lit, shoot the eject hole under the sky ramp to lock the ball and send the new ball by the plunger. Launch the ball from the plunger to activate quick multi-ball. During this 2-ball mode, the toll ramp stays lit for a 1,000,000-point view. Each toll ramp during quick multi-ball scores 1,000,000 points. Quick multi-balls when one of the 2-ball drains. This mode can be activated 3 times per game. That seems like an arbitrary limitation. Quick ball multi-ball can also be combined with field of power multi-ball for even bigger points. To combine 2 multi-ball modes, first lock 2 balls for the field of power multiball, then lock it there, complete the flashing red targets and the corresponding flashing directions on the compass. Once 2 balls are locked, hit the tornado drop targets when quick multiball is lit, and do that. I will raise the ramp to lock that, shoot the eject hole. With both quick multiballs activated, the 3-way ramp is lit for 1,000,000, and that means the first 3 tollway shots score 3,000,000 instead of 2,000,000. Value is increased by 1,000,000 each time it's shot, up to a maximum of 11,000,000. Whirlwind rewards accuracy with 3-way compass. Alright, so that seems somewhat doable. I always felt like this launcher in particular for this table was fairly weird, but I can't hate weird. Like, almost every other table has been fairly boring with its design, and as far as the plunger launching the ball into play, it's always sending it to the top of the table, which makes a lot of sense. It's very traditional, and it almost always is putting it at the top of the table near some bumpers or some rollover lanes. The lightning in the back does light up, so they probably were testing out some technology with that. I don't know if that would be different halogen light tubes or neon light tubes lighting up in the back, or just maybe an attempt at really precise splitting of regular bulbs to stop bleed over of light. But not having really any numbers on it, it just kind of looks artsy and doesn't look like it's actually relaying any information on the back of the playfield. See, that was a great example of what a weak shot over the spinning discs are. I assume they're sandpaper. They could be magnets. That would also make sense. Like, the glass, the top glass on the table is almost never off unless you own the table or someone's repairing it, so it's not like I could have stuck my finger on it and felt it. But I imagine it probably was sandpaper. Sandpaper makes a little bit more sense than spinning magnets. They could have been spinning electromagnets for all we know. Alright, so the drop-down targets reset. Seriously though, if you get that top center shot, it's gonna bounce directly down. Another table where more of a ball saver feature would be appreciated, but it does have at least a center peg. I don't know if I kept hitting that ramp if I would just get higher scores, or if I would eventually have flipped the diverter. I got me an extra ball. Not quite paying enough attention to remember what to do to get the quick multi-ball lit. I know there's which it may not matter. We may just hit things and keep the ball in play. And this is much like Funhouse. That cross shot is the thing that's going to matter. Getting this. So, unlike Funhouse where the left shot was the random thing, this one, it's the right shot that needs to be focused on. So during Multiball, I need to basically do this, quick and fairly consistent shots. And probably you could time it to get it down a little bit lower, something like this probably would work. And then this one on the right needs to be the skilled shots. Those drop down targets are just not really accessible other than from the top flipper. It would have been easy to change that angle a little bit, or just replace them. Put them in a different location. This ball's lit. It's a little surprising that Pinball Arcade didn't bother to at least animate a fan, even if it doesn't mean anything, and it never really did. Clearly they designed it so that if the fan broke, it wouldn't inhibit actual playing of the game, which I imagine a fan like this probably would have broken fairly quickly and easily. There is also probably a danger in having a fan in a higher area like that for a pinball table that might be in a bar. 1990 would have still been a time when the majority of bars would have allowed smoking, so somebody could be smoking and it could be thin enough that it is in a smoking section far away from the arcade section, but then the air near the top of the entire building is still full of smoke since hot air rises, and then the fan might very well just send a puff of cigarette smoke air in the face of a kid. And while people may have not known how unhealthy that is, or at least generally not wanted to admit how unhealthy it is, they would have at least been able to smell it. You basically get punished for starting the storm if you make that shot. I could see making a modification for a table like this where you pretty much just disable the spinners. You probably can just disable them in the operator's manual. Like quick multiball is blinking. Get a power shot up there.
The storm is over. All clear.
So if I can get a power shot up the center lane and then not have it drain on me, I could see getting rid of the standing target and the bumper in that center lane, and then slanting the center drop targets a little bit more to the right so that you could pop the ball up there and actually hit it. And I could see potentially trying to have a slingshot at a slightly different angle on the right too to bounce the ball. Like if there was a pop-up bumper where that standing target at the far right was instead, that would be more helpful for hitting the targets. Of course, that would also mean that the ball either would then not land on a spinning platform from that right ramp, or it hits the spinning platform and the pop-up bumper. So that might work. Alright. Come on. Why did that not lock the million? What do I have to do to start the million in the quick multi-ball?
The storm is over. All clear.
This is the kind of table that kind of highlights where if the angles are a little bit off, it can drastically affect the feel of a table, and this is kind of one of those tables where the angles are just a little bit off. I recall that was in part why I didn't play a lot of this table. That, and it wasn't in one of my usual arcades. If I recall correctly, it was in like a bowling alley that I was just in a couple times. And yeah, adding a ball saver to this every time you go around the ramp. Just a 3-second ball saver would help a lot.
Like rain.
They don't get perhaps as scientific as you would in 2021. There's like no cumulus nimbus type clouds being mentioned, no specific type of lightnings or thunder or anything like that. But you could get a little bit better humidity, pressure, things like that could go up. But yeah, that would really just be theming if I was going to make this table brand new in 2021. I don't know what I'd really change
The storm is over. All clear.
about the gameplay in a way that I would keep much. Like I could see easily just completely redesigning a new table with totally different targets and totally different shots. This might be a point in which, a rare instance in which I would suggest maybe adding an upper playfield or a lower playfield to put the spinning storms at the back. Maybe you have big plastic tornadoes, hurricanes. Since this says whirlwind, you're assuming they're talking tornadoes, but it could be hurricanes too. So maybe you add some flooding. There's definitely a potential danger of making a table like this after major floods and major disasters such as Katrina. You could get accused of making a table in too bad taste. You could definitely have a plastic dam there was a drop down target, and it'd be like, oh no, the dam broke, or oh no, the levees broke, and that starts like a flood multi-ball, or a flood frenzy. That would be a good pun. This is a table that is all about nature and a force of nature, so I don't think there's a real need to give names or real personalities to the storm changers. You definitely would want like a rescue mission where you're actually rescuing people in the storm and not just chasing the storm for scientific observation. I definitely feel like sometimes when I get these targets and I have 2 out of 3 targets down, then all of a sudden I get this near instantaneous burst of nervousness. It's like now the pressure's on, all my muscles tense up. I've heard that professional darts players drink copious amounts of alcohol just to stop their brain from talking to their hands, and I think pinball is very equivalent to that idea. That you just want to be in the flow, in the subconscious. That's how I mostly succeed when playing pinball. The fact that I can talk while playing should be an indicator of that, for sure. Whereas a lot of people probably would get very quiet and not say anything while playing pinball. In fact, most of the pinball people, the people who I'd consider were much better players than me when I saw them, were very quiet and didn't say anything. And there were certainly plenty of opportunities in which I was playing pinball by myself, though there wasn't anybody to talk to. I definitely was visiting some arcades that were abandoned near the end of arcades really being a thing, and I was the only one there just playing pinball. That's an example of the spinner actually helping me. So if the spinner always spun in such a way that it stopped the ball from going towards the center lane, that might work very well. So perhaps if you put the spinners in a linear line around the center vertically instead of horizontally, that took a lot of time. Finally got all the drop down targets. So now I need to get the ball into the ramp to start multi-ball. And if you can't start multi-ball, then you're going to stay in this mode forever with the spinning discs. Notice how they kind of get power and then get slower, trying to be fairly inconsistent. The bumper is oddly making a weird sound when it was lit there. Right. Interesting. It didn't zoom out there to show me the pinball. It glitched a little bit. Now it zooms out. Still very, very easy to bone this up. Trying to get up that ramp because I think that would have walked. That would have been helpful, but maybe not.
Take cover now.
Should have nudged there. It seems kind of even low on the scoring factor.
Oh, looks like rain.
Alright, so all we're looking for is quick multiball now. So I'm not sure what lights quick multiball. I think it's probably hitting the two blinking compass areas, if I was to guess.
The storm is coming. Return to your home.
Well, no, hitting the two blinking compass areas lit the lock.
The storm is over. All clear.
So it might just be something as simplistic as hitting the center lane multiple times. No, it's hitting that ramp multiple times. So get it in there. Hit that center lane shot. Well, that late quick multiball. I don't know what you really get if you walk the entire compass.
The storm is coming.
Like, is that some kind of special bonus?
Take cover now.
Right.
Here it comes.
And just immediately drain out. So this definitely feels like one of the tables where it's really just a matter of time. Eventually, you'll get that quick multi-ball, but it might take quite a few tables, quite a few games. And then that would get the standard goal, and then I imagine there's several other goals.
Oh, looks like rain.
So that did not make it all the way around.
Well, looky here.
If quick multi-ball is lit, then a center shot should be what we should be aiming for. It also kind of seems like the compass locations are always the same. Which, that's a little weird. Come on. Get up there. Get up there so I can hit it. I feel like I've hit the target for the quick multiball million. I don't know what I'm missing. I also feel like this is a table where multiball happens too often. And it kind of highlights that this table is missing a little something. On top of some weird, let's call them artistic gameplay decisions, that it is just kind of missing a gimmick or two that it could use. If you're going to rebuild this, you might take some of the ideas from Earthshaker and combine it. Have earthquakes in the mix and have a building that gets destroyed or damaged. Like by 1990, having a table with a building that would sink to the ground probably wouldn't have been too much for cost reasons. These shots are just too tight at the top there. Let's see. So let's just double check this. Quick multiball milling. Once the lock is lit, shoot the eject hole under the Skyrim to lock the ball and send a new ball to the plunger. Launch the ball from the plunger to activate quick multiball. During 2-ball multiball, the 3 toll ramp stays lit from $1,000,000 value. Each 3 toll ramp shot during quick multiball scores $1 million. Complete the flashing radar targets. They correspond to the flashing directions on the compass. Hit the tornado target with quick multiball. Let's raise the sky ramp. Activate combined. And the $1 million+ value. That means the first three total ramp scores 3 million instead of 2 million. And then it's increased. Left loop is a 3-way combo. We don't even know what the... Yeah, but you just need to score the $1 million. I should have done that by now. There's definitely some shots that I need to work on. That's definitely more tilting type mechanics that I need to work on. I guess a question should be asked as far as would hitting the skill shot perhaps like quick multiball a little bit faster? And certainly when you have the camera down like this, as if you were either a child that could barely see over the pinball table, or just a really short person that can barely see over the table, it definitely makes the ball feel a little bit different. Like it would not roll as far up the table because the angle would be steeper. So you can really mess up your physics, or your mental perception of physics, by having a wrong angle. And again, after having a game like that, I have to kind of wonder if I was using my Pinball Arcade stick with buttons instead of the long throws of Xbox 360 controllers, left and right triggers. I would have to wonder. Honestly, you probably should switch the controls over to left bump and right bump. Like, very rarely in a pinball table do you need to use the left bump and right bump. But just using the bumps instead of the triggers would pull the flippers faster and give you a slight, probably barely perceivable increased ability to respond faster. There definitely have been shots where it feels like if I was faster, I would succeed better. I felt like even though I kind of like the fact that the bumper on the left, the 3 bumpers on the left, do break up what could be a ramp that would shoot the ball directly into the drain, it is still an odd thing to do. Yeah, pretty much any time a ball gets shot out of that cellar or an area like that cellar, it hits it with such a consistent force that you can predict pretty much exactly what to do. It's almost subconsciously. Extra ball is lit. Quick multi-ball is lit. Ball 2 is lit. So this would be the perfect shot, if I can pull it off, to get up the direct center, launch quick multi-ball, and then hit the ball into the ramp and start a combined multi-ball. Well, didn't quite do that, but whatever. Let's just keep the balls in play as much as possible. I think I did get the quick multi-ball, so if I can get it up the ramp. Again, that should have been a 3 million point shot. I went up the ramp. I just went up the ramp again. Just went up the ramp again. Like, how many times do you have to hit the ramp to get the million shot? You would have thought it would have been at least, at most, 3 times. It really doesn't make any sense. It feels like the table itself is just either being emulated incorrectly, or the instructions have been written wrong, including the instructions on the table, or the game itself was just broken. and they're emulating it broken. I would think they wouldn't do that. And if they were going to do that, then they would at least mention it. Now, it would be fairly easy in 1990 to send out new ROM chips and stickers to put over pieces of the table if they needed to change it because it wasn't working and there was some kind of QA mistake or bug allowed in the final production version of the code. I'm sure things like that did somewhat happen, but also a lot of these games are fairly simplistic, so it gets harder to have major bugs in a more simplistic code than it does using software on top of software on top of software. In the case of modern AAA games. Right. So, let's see. This is the same instructions. During the 2-ball multiball mode, the 30-toll ramp stays lit for 1,000,000 points. So is that not the 3-toll ramp? It says 1,000,000. So if you were supposed to say shoot this target instead, which I could imagine that being a more difficult shot, at least that would make sense. But I've been up this ramp plenty of times when the 1,000,000 was flashing. Ramp spots targets. This is the super skill shot. Right. Could I get a quick 1,000,000 even if I controlled the ball?
All clear. All clear. All clear. All clear. All clear. All clear.
Yeah, all I've been able to do is test the music. Seems like that's kind of all it has for it. Doesn't seem like that's much of a setup. And let's go back to game setup and just make sure there wasn't.
Looks like
It doesn't even seem like there's a way to add 5 balls, which you may notice we've started to lose that really more and more. Oh my goodness! Like yeah, more and more even the idea of having 5 balls was taken away from people playing pinball in favor of free balls replay. It was trickery, I would say, more than anything. Right. Yeah, I think just hitting that target alone, actually, I don't think can increase your the quick multi-ball. Kind of ironically, when you have control here, you start to see that there's sort of nothing you can hit if you can't go up that ramp. Nothing new here. going through that ramp doesn't really do anything. I could try and line up the ball for the left flipper bar at the bottom here, but I would still have to power through it. And even with ball control, getting the ball up didn't work. So there's basically no way there's no way to make use of the Pro menu here, which that has been consistently another problem with Pinball Arcade, is that the Pro menu and the idea of ball control totally broken. Does not work. This might be an angle where that's more useful. It's probably a fairly boring table, I would say, also, in the fact that first ball always going to do the north and south, northwest and northeast targets. You can hit the ramp multiple times, and you can hit other things to increase score, but that's pretty much all you can do. I have multiple times gotten the ball stuck behind the left flipper too, which I guess that's kind of a consistent problem. And there was just a straight up visual glitch of the ball jumping through the flipper. The ball seems incapable in Pinball Arcade from going upward and hitting the screen, which is not really believable. Like, yeah, you really have just nothing to do at the beginning of a table. You have to start the multi-ball before you can even have something interesting happen. And it doesn't seem like there's a way of changing your drop targets, because there really are only 2 drop targets in the first place. So I don't even know what the other lights are all about. I don't even know how you increase the score multiplier on this table. This is possibly one of the most unfinished tables we've seen as far as thoughts put out. But that still puts me in a weird position, because this is still a good table. This is still better than a lot of the tables we've seen. I wouldn't put this in the top 10, but I would put it potentially in the top 30. And I suppose it is worth saying that if you play any table for about an hour, you can start to see its flaws. These are things not designed to be played for hours and hours on end. These are not JRPGs or visual novels, which, in all fairness, I think both JRPGs and visual novels can be fairly repetitive and boring too. I think I've got the quick multi-ball if I can just get the shot. But it's not particularly easy to get the shot when you've got to potentially compensate for the spinning storms. Yeah, it really goes to show how irritating they could be. What you could have done is had 3 bumpers instead of 6 for sure, and then have 3 bumpers spin. Maybe that's too much mechanic spinning, or too much mechanical things in one place for 1990. I wouldn't mind if it was just a visual distraction thing that happened, and the spinning discs actually don't affect the game. I'm sure a pro would really hate a table like this if they're trying to do like a tournament and get the highest score. There's way too much randomness. Yeah, but for all my complaints about this table, I'm still playing it an hour and 5 minutes in. Let's give it one more game, and then I think we'll have to call it at that point. This really is just one of those tables where you would have to practice quite a lot. Put enough time into it, and you'll get there. Come on.
Go away.
The storm is over.
Pretty much run out of things to say, too, so I also need to call it a day because of that. It might be a case too that this is like the 4th or 5th table I played today, so it's been a fairly grueling day of playing video games, whatever that really equates to. So I could be just a little bit tired. I can feel my fingers are starting to hurt a little bit. So had I played a table like this at the beginning of a day, it might have been received a little bit better. Although in all fairness, I like this table. I received it well for the first hour or so. It just starts to fall apart when you have one thing and one thing only you're focusing on, and you've done what you think that thing is multiple times and it hasn't counted. The confusion is the killer in almost any activity, and in pinball for sure. If I don't understand clearly why I'm not getting the ramp bump 1 million bonus with the quick multi-ball, then I don't know how to correct for it. Yep. So one of the things I wanted to do is, let's see if we can remember which table it was that had the spinner in it. Was it Spanish Eyes? I don't think so. I think it was probably... Was it Fireball? Let's see. Table history. Flipper zipper. Well, one spinner, yeah. So it was Fireball here that was kind of the last table we saw a spinning section in. And this is the table that, in comparison, only really drains when the flippers that moved in and out. That was a concept that was never emulated by anybody else. But like half the time the flippers are in the middle, and they with the flipper zipper, and that protects you. And this is an incredibly old table in comparison. And I think playing a table even like Whirlwind, and then coming back and playing something this old, might be a good balance. And it's a shame that because of the nature of the fact that these tables were effectively kickstarted as far as what they were going to license and what they were going to make, the old electromechanical tables always were getting the short end of the stick. These are probably easier tables to make. They're certainly easier tables for new players because they're more simplistic. They arguably aren't better tables. Like a table like this is too simplistic, and it has outlanes that are way too wide and way too easy to hit. Slingshots that are taking up a giant amount of space on the table. There's a huge amount of space on the left that's being kind of poorly used. But at least you get 5 balls. My main point in playing this though is to just highlight the problem with a sandpaper playfield in the middle. It only brings chaos. It does not do anything desirable for any player, not new players, not pro players. If you are going to have something like that, you basically need it to be in its own separate upper or lower playfield, something that tries its very best to not have not really have anything going on, or not have a way of draining the ball out. That's what I meant to say. I'm still uncertain as to what even makes the flipper zipper go inward and outward on this table. So when looking at Whirlwind, let's look at the leaderboards. I'd be very interested to see overall on an early Monday morning or late Sunday evening how many people have played this table. We got some major scoreage here in the 300, 200,000 lanes. Where was my highest score? Let's see. This is overtime. I meant weekly. That's what I wanted to see. Not that. So, probably cheaters or just really lucky players. I mean, it's not crazy if I got 12 million to believe that somebody else could get 62 million, though. But yeah, on an early Monday, 54 people have been willing to play this, and 32 million all time puts my score in the 10,000 range, which seems about right. Yeah, I really wanted to get this done because I think I probably could have gotten the other wizard goals at 3 or 4 of them done. I suppose that does go to highlight though that we are back to we need to take a sanity check as far as the Steam achievements are concerned. There are 229 Steam achievements still to go. So it's unlikely that I would be able, since you get 3 achievements per table, it's unlikely that the remaining tables that I have left would get that number much lower. I think it's 3 achievements per table. Maybe there's something else here. I'm also kind of disappointed in Whirlwind because I remember it being a little bit better, but I'm not super surprised there. Would I say Whirlwind is better than Diner? Probably. although Diner might be more interesting to play. Diner and Whirlwind might be two tables you want to bounce back and forth between, whereas if you were to throw in Funhouse, no way. You would just want to play Funhouse. What I think Whirlwind is better than Phantom of the Opera. Probably, but I think they kind of are about the same. Not terrible tables. And that is consistently where we are going with this, with the exception of the throwback of Dr. Dude, which I mostly forgotten about. All of the 90s tables so far have been pretty good, particularly when you consider some of the worser tables from the 80s era. And like, this is a curation of tables, by the way, so if the 60s era, for instance, only has one good table worth mentioning, and the 70s era only has 10 tables worth mentioning, and 2 of them I don't even really like, then we still have a very good chance of having great tables. Next time we'll have Bride of Pinbot, and I'm still fairly hopeful for Cactus Jacks in class of 1812. I could imagine 1812 being particularly a weirder table. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.